I built this totally awesome custom pull-out sleeper couch with a ton of storage underneath for only about 150 bucks, and I want to show you exactly how I did it. What's up everybody, my name is Jaden. If you're new here, I've been converting a 40-foot school bus into my full-time off-grid tiny home on wheels for about a year and a half at this point. I've been documenting the entire thing here on this YouTube channel, so if you like that kind of thing and you want to keep up with all the progress, make sure to hit subscribe so you can keep up with the entire build series. In this episode of my build series, I am going to show you exactly how I built this awesome couch. It's a pull-out sleeper couch with a ton of storage room underneath. I built it for about 150 bucks, and if you are coming here for a totally in-depth, professionally made video by a professional builder, you're in the wrong place. I'm sorry to say. I'm a total amateur, never done anything like this before. This is the first piece of really anything large scale that I've built. Never done any kind of furniture whatsoever. This is my totally first time. Didn't follow any build plans or anything like that, kind of just went off the cuff and wung it, more or less. And I think it turned out really cool, so let me show you around. So the couch itself is about 7 feet in length. The interior of it, from inside arm to inside arm, is about 6'3", 6'4" or so. The back side of here is faced with some 1/2-inch birch plywood, and it's at about a 15-degree angle, which is honestly the perfect angle to be able to just naturally lean back on the couch and not have to sit straight up or lean really far back to an uncomfortable degree. The actual seat portion of the couch, from back to front plate right here, is a little over 3 feet wide, which may seem wide. However, I wanted to make sure I had plenty of room for a really thick back cushion here, so that when I'm sitting here, it should be, hopefully, if I get the right thickness of cushion, a perfect width for me to be able to sit back with my feet on the ground or even up on some kind of ottoman type thing and lean back super comfortably. Now, not only is this a couch for sitting, it's a couch for sleeping. So if you grab this kind of front plate thing here and just give it a little pull, it pulls out to a pretty sizable sleeper bed. It's about 43 inches wide, 43, 44 inches wide when you pull it fully out. And for reference, a twin bed is about 38 inches wide, I believe. So we're at about 5 or 6 inches of extra width here compared to a twin bed, which is really cool. The sides are supported here by these 1x6 common boards from Home Depot. That's what all these slats are made from as well, some 1x4, just regular common board, regular pine. And it's a lot stronger than I anticipated it being. There are 3 supports for each slat, so each slat has a support on either end and then one in the middle. So the stationary slats that don't pull out with the bed are screwed in here, on the other end towards the wall, and right here in the middle for a little middle support. And then the slats that move when you pull the bed out are only screwed into the front plate here. However, they still have this end support here, and they still have this mid support for their end support. So it's super sturdy. Pushes in really nice and easy. Now, if you didn't believe me about the size here, I'm about 5'11" or so, and I have so much room here to just fully lay out. Oh, it's so comfortable already. I don't even need cushions, man. Of course I'll get them. It's a really good size. Now, not only is it a sweet sitting / pull-out sleeper couch, it has a ton of built-in storage underneath. So the entire area of the couch underneath is complete usable storage. So to open and access it, it's just this big old plywood door that folds down on some hinges and has this nice little recessed flush mount handle on it. So I was originally going to do a regular handle, maybe even with a latch up here showing, but I can already imagine I'm walking by, because it's going to be a fairly tight squeeze. I can already imagine I'm walking by and I hit my shin on a handle and I absolutely lose my mind. So I didn't want that to happen. Flush mount was definitely the way to go. So you just grab this, giving it a little pull, and drops down. I don't know if you can see all the storage room underneath, yeah, you can. That goes all the way back, and I've been struggling to figure out a spot to just store and keep all my random junk, especially my scrap plywood. This is the perfect interim place for it. So it's a ton of extra space. Now, I've seen people kind of do a few different things with their couch. Some people, there's actually a guy in my comments who's also doing a school bus conversion, and he was saying that he was using the underside of his couch to store his electrical cabinet, which I really like that idea. I was thinking about that for mine as well. However, it turned out with because if you haven't watched my previous videos, I'm actually storing my entire electrical cabinet underneath my bed. And if I were to have tried to do it underneath the couch, it actually wouldn't have worked with the components I got, because my inverter is, I can't remember exactly how tall it is, but it's taller than the underside of the couch. So I couldn't have actually mounted it as it's intended to mount. So that's one thing a lot of people do with their couch. Another thing too is they use it for, storage. They can use it for water storage, which was something that I was kind of considering at one point as well. There's really anything that you can think of to put under here, you can use it for. But this is just going to be general storage, probably store, blankets and games and, whatever else that I would want to have access to in this general area, but not all the time. The way I have it situated right now is I have two little latches right here. They're just some cheap catch latches from Home Depot. And I have these inset soft close hinges. The soft close wasn't really something that I was looking for the hinges, because it's closing up, so I didn't want to have to give it an extra push. You really don't notice the soft close, and it was the only option at Home Depot when I was there, so went ahead and got it. I did have to build up these hinges on some blocks though, because I have this faceplate that comes over by about an inch the base plate that I have here for the actual couch frame. So I had to build up some blocks and then put the hinges on there, and it worked out really, really well. Fold it back up, just like that. Now, I really had no plan going in for this at all. I started out by drawing some little sketches and trying to get my measurements right so I could get the exact amount of material that I needed, and I got about 2 little rectangle drawings in and just decided to kind of wing it. The way I operate, I cannot conceptualize building something unless I have the materials right in front of me and I can kind of just start piecing things together. So that's what I did. I went to Home Depot. I got about, I think total I got like 12 2x4s. They're like $4 a piece. I got a sheet of 1/2 inch birch plywood and a sheet of 3/4 inch birch plywood for the door here, as well as a bunch of 1x3s and a couple 1x6s from the 1x aisle. Like they're just regular. I think what is this, select pine is what it is. Whatever. I mean, if you wanted to do this exact thing but cheaper, you could just use 2x4s for your slats. The 1xs, I mean, they're really nice and easy to use. They're really, I guess, low profile, you could say, but they're like twice as much money as these quote unquote premium 2x4s that I got. If you get the regular 2x4s, they're like triple the amount. They're like $8 or $9 for an 8-footer for the 1x4s or whatever. So if you wanted to do this kind of thing but do it cheaper, you could always use some 2x4s or just some, some cheaper dimensional lumber for your slats. But basically the building process went like this. I started out by just filling out the bottom frame, making sure that I could lay flat all the way across it and wasn't, having to curl up at any point. I had plenty of room because that was going to be my, interior space for the couch. Once I had that situated and I had all those tacked together with some pocket screws, I went ahead and put up some vertical supports. Now the height for the couch, I believe, is about 18 inches. So I think I cut some like 14-inch vertical supports to put on top of all of the base plate here. Got about 12 2x4 supports, 14 inches each, and I kind of just stacked them somewhat evenly around the frame. I didn't actually take measurements. If I cared enough, I guess I could have, to make sure that they were even, but I kind of just eyeballed it, made sure that they were as even as it looked like they needed to be. I believe I put 3 on either long end. I put 1 on either short end and then 1 on each corner. After that, I mirrored the 2x4s from the base plate for a top plate over my vertical supports, and then I was left with my initial box for my couch. Now, once I had the box for my couch made, I wanted to make sure that the back of my couch was situated to a degree where I could have an angle back. So I didn't build just, straight vertical supports or leave it empty for the back. I cut about a 15-degree angle on these 2x4s and made it to where they sat flush with the wall and allowed for about 15 degrees or so of lean back on this plate here. Once I had that set, I went ahead and started cutting some slats. I cut the initial slats here to 33 inches, but then I had to go get some more from the store, and I got 8-footers instead of 6-footers this time. So to get 3 out of each of them, I ended up cutting them to 32. So they're about 32 to 33 inches on average for each of these slats, which is perfect. Now, once I got all of my slats in, I screwed in every other slat into the front support, the back support, and the mid support beam so that they didn't move. And then I made up this faceplate right here to go across the entire, length of the couch. And then I screwed in every other slat that was going to be pulling out with the pull-out couch into this top plate, and then I secured that to this front plate, and I think it turned out really, really nice. I like the look of it a lot. It ties in with these front plates as well really, really nicely. Once that was done, I went ahead and made the arms for the couch. This was just a simple, couple 2x4 supports with a 2x4 on the top to tie them together, and then I faced each of these with some 1x6 pine as well. I also went ahead and took my roundover bit with my router and just rounded off each of these edges to make it nice and smooth and take away as many harsh, sharp edges as possible. There's still a little bit of cleanup to do there, but I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to finish it, if I'm going to leave these bare wood or if I'm going to put some kind of foam and material over it. I'm not entirely sure yet. And then when I had all that done, I moved on to the door here. Now the door is just a sheet of 3/4 inch birch plywood, nothing crazy, and like I said before, it's on some soft close inset hinges. I don't really know a whole lot about hinges or cabinet making. Since this door was going to be inset between this top plate, bottom plate, and the side plates, and I wanted it to be flush with those and not stick out at all, I needed the inset hinges. If it was going to be sitting over any of these components, then I would have needed something like an overlay hinge, but I'm not even going to get into that because I don't know anything about all that, at least not yet. And that was actually pretty easy to do. I got this little $15 template with a bit to drill out the holes for my hinges and just set them in there, screwed them in. They ended up working out, I think, either on the second or third try, so not too bad. And then, like I said before, the last thing I did basically like just before I started this video was install this little handle here, which I really like. I like the look of it a lot. It's super low profile, it's just kind of there to grab, but it's not sticking out, which I definitely did not want. Didn't want anything sticking out here. Now there's a couple more things I do need to do to fully finish the couch. The main thing obviously is get cushions, and my little sister and my mom are kind enough to help make those because I know nothing about sewing, and I'm really excited about that. I think we're gonna pick out some material next week or the following, and we'll hopefully get these cushions in here at some point. I'm not really in a huge rush because I know I'm gonna have to take them out or store them or cover them at some point anyway, because I'm gonna be building my cabinets here fairly soon, so I don't wanna get them all, dusty and ruined before I have a chance to actually use them. And then there are a couple more trim pieces I need to do. Like I need to put a trim piece across the top here. There's a couple of trim pieces I need to put right here, kind of like the triangle shapes for the top, and just clean up with a little bit of wood filler, cover up all the, screw holes that are going to be visible, namely on the front, and then some, less than straight cuts that I made. Because like I said before, I'm not an expert. I'm a total amateur, never done anything like this before in my life. That being said though, I may be biased because I made it, but for the first ever attempt at making any piece of furniture whatsoever, I'd say this is pretty darn solid. And I'm not really well versed in how much furniture really costs, but doing all this for about 150 bucks in materials, not including tools and whatnot, is really not that bad at all, I don't think. Especially in today's market where a sheet of birch plywood costs like 70 or 80 bucks. It's crazy. So doing it for that cheap is not too bad at all. And I'm not entirely sure what the finished couch finish is going to look like. You know, like, am I going to paint it? Am I going to stain it? What color are the cushions going to be? What material are the cushions going to be? So on and so forth. I'm going to save that for quite a bit down the road until I have more of everything built out. You know, my cabinets built out. Well, yeah, really my cabinets built out, so I can start to get a really good idea of what I actually want everything to look like, what I want, you know, do I want things to kind of blend in with the wall, or do I want them to contrast the wall nicely, or, you know, what do I really want? And I'm not entirely sure yet. I'm not really good with the artsy stuff, and visualizing it rather than having it sitting in front of me to be able to kind of play around with is really difficult. So we're going to save that for the time being, but I'm just so happy with how this couch turned out, and it's such a good size too. I mean, yeah, honestly, I couldn't be happier. And I know some of you might be curious how much room I'm really gonna have with how wide this couch is, and that's something I was concerned with as well. But if you look at this tape here, this is based on a traditional 26-inch wide cabinet or countertop. So this is about 26 inches out from the wall, this tape right here. So I have about 2.5 to 3 feet of walking space between where my cabinet's going to be and my couch. And the nice thing about doing all this custom and building my own cabinets and whatnot is I can make them shallower if I want to, which I may end up doing. I might make them like 2 feet wide, or I might make them 22 inches wide or something like that to give me a little bit more walking space, because, you know, I'm really happy with the couch, although it is a little bit wider than I anticipated. Is what it is. I think it's going to turn out really well though when I have cushions on there, and I'm going to be happy that I made it wider rather than more narrow. Speaking of kitchen cabinets though, I think that's kind of the next furniture thing. Before I do that, I want to figure out my drainage situation for my water, and I'll get into that in just a second, kind of give you a preview of what I'm thinking up in the dome here. But yeah, kitchen cabinets are kind of going to be the next big like building part of the build, which is super exciting. That I can picture it kind of, but like I really can't imagine a full, you know, because basically it's going to be oven right here starting at this window, and it's going to be kitchen the entire way, and then it's going to L out here along this wall for some more counter space, and then I'm going to have some upper cabinets here. I'm going to have some probably open shelves over these windows, maybe have some more closed cabinetry right here, have some really nice counter space here, about 4 or 5 feet of counter space here, have my sink underneath one of these windows. I mean, it's gonna be a huge kitchen relative to the size of the bus, which is awesome. All right, and I did say that I would give you guys a little bit of a preview of what my drainage situation might be looking like. So here's kind of what I'm thinking initially. So if you guys have been following the channel, you know this is my bathroom, and I'm looking to do a shower, of course, and a washer dryer combo unit. So shower's planning to go right here, basically where this box is. Washer dryer unit's going to go along the wall on top of that box I built over the wheel well, and both of those I want to drain in together. So the issue with that is this bathroom is, I mean, kind of in the middle, but more on the passenger side of the bus. And traditionally with RVs, your drainage and inlets and everything are on the driver's side of the bus, meaning I'm going to have to figure out a way to mount a tank and drain on this side of the bus. And I think I kind of lucked out. Didn't plan this at all, but I think I really did get quite lucky in that I have about 6 inches of usable space here between this wall ending and this box starting. So the plan, I think, is to build the shower up on a box about as high or maybe even a little higher than the box over the wheel well, and figure out some kind of drainage system to let gravity drain the water from the shower and kind of travel at a slight decline along this edge of the wall and down here. And then right about here actually is like the perfect place, because there's nothing underneath basically from here to my first window over there, kind of halfway under the couch. So going straight down basically is going to leave me a perfect spot for a gray tank, and the plan is to do probably a 50-gallon gray tank. So I'm going to have 100 gallons of fresh water in the back, a 50-gallon gray tank for drainage for my shower and my washer dryer combo unit. And as I alluded to before, my sink is going to be right about here, and the plan for that is kind of something a little bit different than you might have seen. I mean, I've seen a lot of like van conversions especially do this kind of thing, but I'm gonna have a secondary drainage system exclusively for my sink. And the reason being is the majority of the sink water is gonna be used either to drink, to wash dishes, or to cook with. And the amount of water that I'm going to be using to wash dishes and cook with is fairly minimal, especially when we're talking about how much water I'm going to be dumping back down the drain. So having some kind of just independent, just like basically a big jug of water, or like basically like a big multi-gallon water jug, or maybe even like a 5-gallon bucket or something underneath the sink for everything to drain into from there, I think is going to be the right move, because it's going to be a lot easier to empty out on a more regular basis, essentially every day or maybe every other day, or something along those lines, to where I won't have to worry about filling up so much of my gray tank, because that's going to be for my shower and my washer dryer combo unit exclusively. And it's also going to help me with being able to have a smaller tank, about half the size of my freshwater tank, because a lot of the water that I'm actually going to be using on a daily basis is to be drinking with or cooking with. I'm not going to be doing laundry every day. I hopefully will be able to shower every day, but the shower situation is going to be so little water usage that it's really not going to drain a whole lot. All that being said, I think that's going to be the move, and it limits another plumbing tie-in that I would have to tie in with this whole drainage situation, and I like the idea of that. Plus, if I have that separate jug for my sink water, if I want to empty it and I don't have a place to empty it, and I have room in my gray tank, I can just take the jug, go over to my shower, dump it down the shower drain, and it drains into the gray tank. So kind of to me it's kind of a no-brainer to do that, but we'll see what ends up working out. That's the plan right now for the drainage, at least. And with all that being said, this is where I'm going to cut this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one and learned a thing or two. Maybe if you're trying to figure out how to design your couch, or kind of what you're looking for in terms of furniture or space in your bus conversion or something like that. Hopefully this was able to help you out, or at least give you a little bit of insight as to, kind of what you're trying to do with your build. And I need to say again, I've never done this or anything like this ever in my life, never, not once. And it's up for debate, of course, it's subjective, but I think it turned out really, really amazing, especially for a first try. So if you're worried about building your own furniture, take a look at this. You can definitely do it. Now, like I said before, I'm doing an entire build series here on this YouTube channel, documenting the entire process of building this school bus and turning it into my full-time off-grid tiny home on wheels, from the very beginning to the very end. So if you like the kind of thing, want to keep up with all the progress, make sure to subscribe so you can keep up. Now, if you have any questions further that I didn't cover about the couch, or maybe even some suggestions on, a color scheme or material that I can use, or maybe even something I can change about the couch to make it even better than it already is, make sure to leave them in the comments. I would love to hear your suggestions. With that, I'm gonna go ahead and cut this video. I'll see you in the next one.